Alright, doing this video real quick as a response to video channel The Amazing Atheist, what he calls himself. Ted Nugent is every flavor of nuts. Oh man. Here's the thing. Where do I start, man? Oh man. I mean, first of all, you know, here's something that you should take into consideration. Just because you express a political opinion on some matters doesn't mean you necessarily have to co-opt the position of an entire group of individuals because you don't have enough of a self-identity to be secure in your own opinion on things or who you are as a person. That's first and foremost. Oh man, it's really something that it's hard to kind of jump into it. I mean, really, the right to bear arms. I mean, look at here's something that he just said in the video. He said criminals tend to get the drop on you. And he doesn't cite any kind of statistics for that. He just says it and then expresses a lot of emotion over the fact of how true it is, or you know, the belief of how true it is. And it's based on nothing, you know, other than the idea that if you're in if he comes up with this anecdote that's kind of a made up story of if you're in a shopping lot and somebody pulls a gun on you, what are you gonna do? This is what he goes, what are you gonna do then? You gonna pull out a gun and stop them? And I mean, here's the thing. Try to imagine. First of all, in a secure world where people have guns, plenty of people have guns, somebody going into a shopping lot and just doing that so brazenly, much less likely to occur in a country that is rife with guns. You're not going to find people as willing. I think you would agree with that, regardless of who you are and what your position is. Imagine somebody trying to pull a mass shooting in the Wild Wild West. Can you imagine how far that may have gotten? Not very far. He probably wouldn't have gotten to the first guy. And even if he did, I mean, it just kind of takes the fun out of it to shoot one guy and then be shot dead. You know, you don't get to, you know, glamorize over and over again on how fun and eroticize and all the other things that people do when they kill a whole bunch of people. You know, imagining how glorified they're going to be having killed all these people and how their message is going to be spread, and all the sick, deluded thoughts that go through their mind. It's going to be hard to get that far with the fantasy when you realize you're only going to kill one guy and then you're going to be shot dead. So that kind of eliminates that prospect and that problem. So in a country that has more people in prison than China, and disarmament occurring at a rapid pace as a result of that process of, you know, enslavement and mass murder, which is called drug prohibition, you also have massive disarmament occurring underneath that. You know, if you're ever convicted of a felony, you can't have a gun, and that could be possession of marijuana within 1,000 feet of a school in Oklahoma is a serious felony. You know, it doesn't matter if you just happen to live within 1,000 yards of the school and you know, you were in your own bedroom smoking half a joint before you go to sleep at night so you can get some decent sleep. It's still considered a threat to those kids because we live in a completely delusional world. I mean, delusional and just freakishness. And so anyways, and then the whole theory of, the criminals generally get a drop on you. I mean, if I'm in my own house with the doors locked and there's I have a dog, an alarm system, and a gun. The alarm system is going to alert my neighbors of what's occurring. The dog's going to alert me and possibly bite the perpetrator before I get a chance to shoot him. And if he doesn't bite him before he gets a chance to shoot him, it's going to distract him, and his aim, which is going to be his gun, is going to have to point at the dog. While he's pointing at the dog, I'm going to be pointing at him. So in that situation, I would tend to get the drop on whoever's coming to my house. I would tend to. Okay. So that was a completely made-up scenario that he came up with, and out of that made-up scenario, he makes the blanket statement of, this generally happens. It's completely dangerous. This video has 80,000 views, and everything that he has said is completely made up and is based on no facts whatsoever. And I wanted to direct you to a video called the UN Gun Control Agenda. 6 minutes and 40 seconds into that video, you find several newspaper clippings from major news publishers around the world of what happens when they ban guns. Crime goes up. Okay, and same thing as assault rifles. The vast majority of of crimes stopped are by assault rifles, while a very small percentage of actual criminal action is taken by assault rifle. Very small. Or murders occur by assault rifle during commission of a crime. Very, very, very small percentage by comparison. So therefore, so that addresses his whole statement of some guns are okay, and then he also makes the blanket statement that according to Ted Nugent, all weapons are acceptable, even atomic bomb. And this is based on a statement Ted Nugent made, where he said the government deciding. Well, anyways, this is beside the point. When he's clearly talking about guns, it's taking things out of context is really what it is, and really nitpicking, frenetic nitpicking, looking for any way to pick apart something somebody said without even refuting the point, with any kind of evidence or anything whatsoever. That has never occurred. Okay, so like what I just did, where I cited statistical information. And I need to find the video by Alex Jones, which is actually a pretty good video, where he cites NRA gun ownership statistics and correlates it to the drop in homicide, which is, he cites FBI crime statistics I've seen for years, where in 1992 the homicide rate actually instantly began to drop, because I study drug prohibition statistics. I like to know what's causing the homicide rate to go up, and directly correlates with the extreme increase in drug prohibition under the Nixon administration. We already had drug prohibition. Okay, drug prohibition began, forms of drug prohibition began before alcohol prohibition ever ended. And so in 1965 there was 2 arrests for marijuana per hour, whereas by 2010 or 2008 there was well over 100, or more than 100 per hour marijuana arrests, which is more than 3/4 of the entire drug prohibition is on marijuana, a plan of all things. And I mean, if you want to take a position, atheist, on marijuana, that's great, but don't be so weak and frail and feeble-minded that you need to align yourself with a whole group of people because you're too insecure in your own opinion. That's sowing division and reaping discord. Whenever you associate your entire life with two teams, you know, as arbitrary as, two teams competing against each other, it's pretty futile, and it's not going to work out. Okay, life is a little more complicated than that. So you need to associate criminals with criminals, and just because the Constitution was written a long time ago, guys, you need to observe the fact that historically speaking, no other form of government has been successful other than a republic, and that hasn't even been successful. Okay, that went on for 1,000 years, and really not successfully for 1,000 years. It just collapsed for 1,000 years. So, you know, uh, we may have a better chance because we have them surrounded, so to speak, and we have the internet. People are informed, aware, and have guns. That might turn the tide. But God help us if it doesn't, because everybody's going to die. If things don't turn around. I mean, you can't destabilize the world so much with this many nuclear weapons. You just can't do it. And I don't know if anybody's even thinking about that. Because as I can see it, it's just like, oh, we got to get more, and we're always afraid we're not going to get enough, and we're afraid that we're not going to be able to, and you're going to lose everything. I mean, you just keep getting frantic about it, I guess, because you're just going to lose everything. I mean, people are just absent-minded, just absolute childlike idiots. And beside the point of if you're idiots or not, I mean, you're going to be dead. I mean, because you're going to be dead. Anyways, the point is just love it up while you can, because it's not even going to be that great when champagne's got bisphenol A in it, because every single aspect of the ecosystem has plastic in it, because that's being perpetrated at the highest level. Pollution is good to these people. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but they think that if they can keep the world in a certain amount of dismay, etc., that's good. It's like death is good to them. Well, if you think about it, that's the only way that they can stay in power, is for things to be horrible. And that's worked out for a lot of usurpers and tyrants of, the Roman era, times past. I have to ask myself, what do they even think? What do you think? What are you thinking? Do you think that it's going to be like it was before, where some people are going to kind of make their way to the top and everything's just going to work out? Do you think that'll happen with tens of thousands of nuclear weapons? Or does that even matter? What you really think is going to come of this? Does that even factor into this? Is there a goal? Is there any kind of notion or plan or calculation, or is there anything? Is there anything? Anything? Yeah. It's just it's a little weird, man. So it's just frenzied, frenetic retardation. I mean, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it. So, anyways, the main point is that the video made no sense. You have a constitutional right. This is the law of the land. There isn't any other. You have a constitutional right to certain things. It really doesn't matter how you come about those rights, as long as those rights in and of themselves are preserved. I'm not advocating violence. Violence is already occurring. We're receiving that all the time. Every single person who's enslaved on a day-to-day basis, that's violence. Every gang violence that occurs as a result of that enslavement is mass murder. That's violence. So violence is already here. But I'm not advocating. I'm basically saying that oh, man, I don't care what you do to them, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not sitting here. The point is Oh, it's just. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. It's just bizarre stupidity. You've got the legality of your right to bear arms is based on the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is that's what really pisses people off when you say and they say, well, things were kind of complex in the past. Do you believe in natural law? And they try to play all these word games with you because these are all the lines they've been taught watching television, all these different lines and stuff, talking points and stuff. And then you say, yeah, but the Constitution, you know, uh, that's why a republic is such a successful form of government because you just continually assert the fact. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the legal status is based on the Constitution, and man, that was written a long time ago. I know, but the legal status was still based on the Constitution, and you don't know what they meant by that. They could have meant for us to be carrying muskets. Well, I understand, but it says arms. You know what I mean? That's what the Constitution says. You know, uh, didn't say muskets. You know what I mean? Didn't say that. And I'm not sitting here saying the Constitution is perfect. I mean, there was provisions in the Constitution for slavery to be legal. I mean, it's not a perfect document, okay, but it's good as of this point in time. In that, if you could have just a constitutional government, then you would have prosperity, you would have wealth, you would have security in the sense that the government isn't going to just drop a nuclear weapon on itself on some city or state somewhere because the authority to has been siphoned off to fewer and fewer individuals. It's or where the media conglomerates have been you know consolidated down to five. You know, five people control the agenda of everything you hear and see on a daily basis. Uh, I mean, and it happens so quickly. I mean, by 1982 there was 25. By 1990 there was 10. I mean, and I think the book was called Media Monopoly. Anyways, the point is it's difficult to see that coming. But if you had that type of thing, you'd have prosperity, you'd have freedom, you'd have the security to defend yourself, and not security as in I need to go through a radiation machine that unzips my DNA in a completely unrepairable way, irreparable way, and have my naked body, scanned in for subjugation purposes. That's not the kind of security I'm talking about. Where Hitler bombed his own government building and then blamed it on a group of people, calling them terrorists, and ushered in, which within a month passed an act called the Enabling Act, euphemistically titled, so that they could outstrip the Constitution, pave the way for a dictatorial mass extermination scenario. And at the exact same time, in the United States, a group of individuals led by George Bush Jr.'s grandfather, George Bush Sr.'s father, for what was called the Dixie-McCormick Committee, and it was called the White House coup, and we're going to overthrow the United States and install extermination camps in the United States. This is the same man who was caught laundering Nazi funds for Nazi Germany. And yes, they did disarm, and yes, Hitler did take guns. Based on it was in the 30s they had a registration, which really paved the way for. This was before Hitler ever came into power. Really paved the way for the whole extermination scenario, and And then you have 9/11. You know, World Trade Center 7 was never hit by a jet, collapsed into its own footprint at free fall speed. This is the first time a building in the history of the world has ever collapsed due to fire. However, even though 1,500 architects and engineers have signed a mission statement or whatever, I forget what you call it, a survey basically stating that, you know, this is impossible. This entire I think it's called something else, but this entire World Trade Center 7 collapse is impossible due to fire. Could never have happened. Yet, British Broadcasting Channel, in advance of the collapse, said World Trade Center 7 has collapsed. And there you saw the building right behind her, still burning, as she says it's already collapsed. They predicted it. They predicted what's never happened before in the history of the world. They predicted it. And before the transmission feed caught that building collapsing actually behind her, it mysteriously was cut off by static 5 minutes before. And, you know, you could also look at the fact that in the 1960s there was declassified CIA documents that basically said that we needed to take CIA jet planes and paint them as passenger jets and fly them by remote control, landing the actual airliners, and then flying the CIA painted jets into civilian, you know, infrastructure to be blamed on Cuba as a pretense to invade Cuba. Never happened. What I understand, but because Kennedy said no, which is one of the reasons he's dead. But you know, during 9/11, those radar blips did disappear momentarily, and then reappeared of the passenger jets, as if somebody had grounded the original jets and taken Air Force jets or CIA jets and flew them off by remote control to fly into the World Trade Centers. And what was to happen to those passengers of the? And this is a documentary called Project for New American Century. You can find all the classified document information specific. You know, what was to happen to those people in those jets that were landed, that were grounded in order to stage this? It was never mentioned. They never said what was going to happen to those people. Maybe just took them off in a ditch and shot them in the head. Maybe they just took Payne Stewart off in a ditch and shot him in the head. And anyways, you know, it's just, let me just clarify, it's just not a good idea to take guns. Not a good idea to advocate for taking guns to tens of thousands of people. It's not healthy for anything. And it's destabilizing the world. And I don't know if the guy knows that what he's doing is really dangerous, you know. I mean, this is dangerous, what you're advocating here, to a lot of people. I wouldn't want that kind of thing on my conscience, you know. But above and beyond everything, you know, regardless of how old the document is and how trendy you feel, you know, how associated with others, you know, how in tune. Yeah, dude. Well, cool, dude. Cool shirt. Wow. Looks like a Spazoid wrote it with neon. Wow, that's cool. Because it's weird, you know? As long as it's weird, you know? That's what we ought to just say every presidential election is it weird, you know? So is it weird, guys? Let's have a poll. Is it weird? So that's what makes me feel like I'm a part of something. And you're gonna say, it needs to be weird so you can feel like you're a part of something. And this is what we need to think about. Okay, guys. Yeah, I don't know if it was weird or not. Just kind of trying to, anyways, I'm done. I'm done.